This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Carl Ferrand, Head of Procurement at Specsavers. Carl has over 16 years of procurement experience, having started on the Foster Wheeler Procurement Graduate Programme, before working for the likes of Vitality, LV, Serco, and now at Specsavers, where he oversees all marketing and business services spend. Carl is passionate about people, and we'll be discussing that today, as well as how he's been able to successfully develop into procurement leader. And Carl shares his insights into the challenges and opportunities he sees both in his career and the wider procurement profession. I hope you enjoyed today's show. Carl Ferrand, welcome to the Talent Talks podcast.
All right, thanks for having me.
So this is technically your first time one-on-one, but you were here on the Talent Talks live panel last year, so sort of not your first rodeo this time around.
Yeah, first time flying solo though.
Yeah.
The first time one-to-one with you.
There you go. Well, look, thank you for joining me. So I'm going to kick things off actually with you, because when we have guests on, most of them, probably bar one or two I can think of, have said, I fell into procurement. You didn't though. You went on the procurement graduate scheme at Foster Wheeler. So was that a conscious decision for you at the time, or talk us through how you sort of got into procurement?
Yeah, I think so. Well, so I guess sort of going through like school and college, and I always liked kind of businessy topics. You know, I did A-levels in business studies, IT, economics, really liked economics, did a degree in economics. And I think I kind of always knew that I wanted a role in the business world, but I don't think I ever sort of thought I want it to be procurement.
Okay.
And then when I graduated, I moved up to Reading to live with my now wife, and I sort of, like an optimistic grad.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've got my economics degree, like I will just walk straight into a job and off I go. And it doesn't happen like that, does it? And so we'd sort of rented a flat, we had bills to pay, all of that kind of stuff. So I was always searching for that entry level role. I always wanted to go on a grad scheme, but it took me over a year to find it. And I think my first job out of uni, I went to sort of temp agencies and was just temping. My first ever role was at Reading Borough Council, filling out OAP bus passes.
Okay.
So there was, I got there and there's like a big stack of like these handwritten applications, and you had to like key them into the computer, and then it would print them off. And when the pile was big enough, I took them down to the post room. Yeah. And because that was I needed a job. Yeah. And I did that. And I remember after the first week, the agent, the person from the temp agency rang and said, they love you. The pile's never gone down that quick. And, and I was like, oh, right, thanks. He said, but I've got a choice for you. You can either stay here doing this role, or there's a job at an oil and gas company around the corner. And my reply was, does it pay more? And they were like, yeah, it's £1 an hour more. So I was like, I'll do it. So the next Monday I rocked up to what's called BG Group then. It was a big FTSE top 10 company, and it was it was amazing. Like, it had these 3 massive buildings. There was like golf carts taking people between the buildings. Like, one of them was like, designed by Norman Foster. They had these, like, it was just, I don't know, just I guess everything you would imagine a big FTSE top 10 headquarters would be. And I loved it. And the job there was to clean out a filing cabinet. They had like these sort of rolling rack filing cabinets, and they didn't know what was in it. So I had to literally go around, write everything down, and then go through the managers on the floor and go, do you want to keep it, destroy it, get rid of it, that kind of thing. And and then I did that quicker than they thought. And then the guy then, he sort of sat me down after I'd done it, and he said, look, I'll honour it was sort of 2 weeks at the gig. I was like, I'll honour your contract. Tell us a bit about yourself. I said, I just graduated in economics. And he's like, well, you're in the market analysis department. Here's some data, do some modelling for us, and we'll see. And so I kind of did that, and he liked the work. And then he then kept me on. And I think he was probably my first sort of, I guess, role model, and he looked after me and gave me sort of opportunity. But I guess always based on, it was always on a sort of rolling temporary contract. And it was always, my role there was sort of half of the time I was sort of PA, EA, general assistant for him. And then the other sort of half of the time I was doing, economic modelling, that kind of stuff. And I loved it, but I was always trying to find a grad scheme. I just wanted to get on a grad scheme because I thought that's the way I wanted to start. And I didn't know Reading at all because I just moved there. And so I used to, like, in the evenings, I used to drive around the business parks and like write a list of all of the, because like companies have their like, you know, their board up, don't they, or their name or whatever. And I'd write down like the names of the companies. I think like, there must be one of these. There must be a grad scheme in one of these, or there must be a job for me. And so I used to go home, like research them, you know, and look on their websites and all that kind of stuff. And there was one company, Foster Wheeler, and they had a grad scheme, and they had all these different grad roles. And they're all like engineering, because it's a big engineering company. It was like mechanical engineer, piping engineer, this, that, and the other. And then at the bottom it said procurement graduate, and that was the only one that didn't need an engineering degree, and it needed a business degree. And I was like, and then I read into what it was and what it was doing, and it was like, it just appealed to me so much, you know, kind of what the description of what procurement was in that job description was like ticked all of those boxes, all of those things that I was interested about, that I'd learned, you know, in studies, and that I'd started to see during these temp roles. And applied for that, and applied for that. Went to the assessment. Went to the assessment day, which was like, that was an experience, because I remember like there was people from all over like the country coming to that assessment day, and the first thing you turned up, and like people, like the first thing you did was like claim your expenses back. So there were people getting like given sort of envelopes.
Pre the assessment.
Yeah. Okay. So people getting envelopes of cash for like their train tickets or their flights or whatever. And I lived like 3 miles away, and I'd cycled on my bike, and they were like, "Have you got any expenses?" I'm like, no, I'm good. And yeah, it was sort of like, there's some stuff that went well that day. That we had an exam, there was group work, there was all of those kind of, and I remember there was an HR interview, like that was my first ever like competency based. Oh no, absolutely bombed in it. And like, you know, when you're in an interview and you're like, I've got nothing.
Know that it's,
I tried all the tricks. I'm like, take a sip of water to sort of like think drink while I think or whatever. And then in the end I was like, I'm so sorry, I've got nothing. And I remember the lady just stared me in the eye and she's like, well, that's the end of my question, so I guess that's the end of the interview. And I was like, oh. So I thought I bombed. But then I remember like looking back at like some of the things on the assessment day, like the group work. It was me and the other 3 of us that were selected out of that. I think there was like 20 of us on that day. It was sort of like we were the 3 that solved like the group task. And when I sort of look back on it, there was some sort of things that happened across that day where probably made me stand out. And I also remember because you go to lunch as well. I remember going to lunch, and there's this big canteen, and like all of the other applicants were all sat together. And I remember, but then all of the assessors were there as well. And I'm like, well, it sort of seemed a waste of time to go and sit with the other candidates. So I just went and sat with the assessors, because you got like, and I think it's sort of having the confidence, isn't it, and putting yourself out there. And I think maybe that was one of the things,
early networking with the
I guess
the C-suite.
So. It just seemed like the right thing to do with So I don't know whether that means I chose procurement or not.
I think you've described it as that feels like not a fall into procurement. That's like a stumble. A gentle trip or a stumble.
Well, I don't know. But yeah, I think I definitely chose it, and I applied for it, and I was interested in it, and I love it, and I kind of I guess I proudly like to think that I chose it because I love it as a profession.
So let's sort of go through to a bit more about you. Obviously, I've got to know quite a few years now. You're very passionate about people. I know a lot of the things that you talk about in your leadership team at Specsavers and in previous roles. Very much at the center of it always seems to be people. So what do you think makes a good leader of people?
I don't know. I think I've always I think I'm quite a compassionate person. I think I've always defaulted to that, and I think I sort of I sort of believe, I naturally trust people, and I naturally believe that we're all here trying to do the right thing, and also I kind of we're all professionals, and we're all kind of ambitious and working hard, but we're all doing it for a reason, aren't we? We're all doing it for reasons outside of work, probably. And I think that as a belief, then I think leads me to kind of that mindset of it is all about people. It is all about looking after people, and I think I definitely believe in that's the way to get the best out of people. in terms of making them feel happy, making them feel comfortable. As long as we've got a purpose, as long as we've got a direction that we're heading towards, then I guess your role as a leader is to ensure you've got that purpose and that direction in place, but also to enable people. And I think people are best enabled by when they feel comfortable, when they feel respected, when they feel included. And so I think I just naturally default to that as my way of thinking about things. And I think that's the sort of foundations of the leader that I try to be.
And is that something that you sort of inherently learn, or obviously I know you've had mentors and role models on the way, but because I agree with you, but is that something that you've always felt, or from a young age, or is that something you've kind of learned over the years?
I think it's a mix of things. I think there's some sort of, when you kind of dig into some of the sort of self-awareness things, and you look into yourself and how you think and how you work, then definitely. And I also think back to the way you look back to when you've been led well and when you haven't been led well. I look back to moments where I've felt safest and delivered my best, and most of the times for me that's been when I've been treated or led and managed in that way. So I think I'm always aspiring in my career, and I want to keep progressing. And I think I've always thought before I was a leader, that's the way I like to be led, so that's the way I want to lead. And I think that probably has been formed by a bit of my own self-belief and also a bit of self-awareness of understanding how I think and work, but also kind of from lived experience as well.
And obviously during your career you've had some brilliant moments, you had some tough moments. We've spoken off air before this around some of those other core traits in people that you think are important. One of them is resilience. Do you want to talk me through that a bit more about your...
I think resilience is something that I think us people in procurement have to have, because I always say, a typical procurement role is impossible. You're never gonna do everything you want to do. You're probably never going to finish everything, or you're never going to do everything to the level or the standard you want to, because we have so many demands on us. Even if you had an infinite team or you had infinite tools, there'd still be some level of dissatisfaction or feeling of I could have done better, or I wish I had this. And so you have to prioritize, and you have to be resilient. And because if you don't, I think you're on a hiding for neglecting your mental health. And I think you have to build up ways of coping, and you have to build up ways of being resilient. And I think that's something I think some things I've naturally done. I buy into the concept of making sure you have enough social interaction, making sure you have enough rest and sleep, and also making sure that you've got something that is fulfilling and a purpose. And I think you've got to mix those things. And for me, I guess I've always tried to kind of keep an eye on how I'm feeling, and making sure that I've got enough.
Do you know the signs when there's like a bit your stress levels have gone to? Because some of them can be very...
I've learned. And actually, I think probably the sad thing is, I don't think if you asked anyone at work, I don't think anyone would ever say, oh, I've ever noticed a difference. I think that people would probably say he's always consistent. He's always, Carl's always, he's always happy. He's always, he always does what he says. He's always, he always has a certain level of charisma, And so I think, maybe it's a sad thing or not, I don't know. That when it starts to show is at home. And so, it will be things like, if it's a day where I've got to pick the kids up, and I'm like, you get back and you're like, I can't be bothered to cook them a nutritious homemade dinner tonight. I'll just take them to McDonald's, or, I just kind of want them to get to bed sooner rather than later. And for me, I think those are the signs, because I think those are the signs for me that I'm trying to cope and deal with some stress, and I've learnt that over the years, I think. And I've always, I think there are some baseline things that I try to do that help. So like I love sport, and like for me, playing sport is like that escape. It gives me that social interaction. It allows me to compete as well, because I think I'm a competitive person. And playing, I play hockey. Playing hockey once a week, training once a week, playing once a week gets you out of the house, gets you that social interaction up, and also gets you to compete. And I think that helps.
And we all need that external focus away from work and being a dad and a parent, and you need that extracurricular, whatever that may be, whether it's sport or another activity. So I think it's
an interesting one though, isn't it? Because do you think and I've had this chat with quite a lot of people, or quite a lot of dads, or quite a lot of people of our sort of age. Of you kind of sit in this dilemma of like, I'm so proud of what I do professionally, and I'm so dedicated to it that I do want to identify part of who I am as Carl, the procurement professional, because that is part of my identity. But then you will then also have this dilemma of, well, actually, I don't know that that's my full purpose, because my purpose is, I pride myself on being a dad. I pride myself on being a husband. I pride myself on my life, and sometimes they can be quite confusing, getting that balance right, because you don't want to go, oh well, I don't care about work because I've my purpose in life is outside of work. But equally, because that's not true.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's an interesting balance, and I think it plays back to the resilience. And I think, and I've certainly learned I'm keen to make sure that I work out when I'm in those, when it's creeping up on you, and when it starts to manifest in your behaviour. I think I'm quite good at then taking.
You've got that self-awareness to know that you've got to take that time.
So like last time it happened was back in the summer. So I'd had a really busy few weeks at work, and I was feeling a bit tired, a bit short, and so I just blocked my diary out for like best part of, well, I'll say half a day, best part of a day probably. Drove over to Swanage, and just walked around Hangsbury Head. Took myself a little packed lunch, went on a little hike, sat on my own, and just took that time out, and that just did me the world of good. And I came back the next day, productive, because I think I was sort of feeling like, oh, I'm not being that productive. I'm struggling a bit, like what's going on, and just taking that time out is important. And I also think, and I always say it to people in my team as well, because it's the same for all of us, right? Because it's back to the point of like our job's impossible. These pressures are going to be mounted upon you. You've got to deal with it, and you've got to be able to identify it, and then you have to take the time out. And so I always say to people, like, take it's okay. Take the time, especially the environment that we work in, which is, we work multiple time zones. We work different projects, and so it's not, it's not a kind of 9-to-5 job for us. You work all these different time zones, and you can easily get stuck into a trap where you do like the morning time, you do some work with Australia and New Zealand in the morning, then you could do European and UK work during the day, and then sort of Canada work, and so you could have this day, and no one knows. Like those three groups of people don't know that you've done those other two bits of work, and it takes out of you. So I always say, I kind of try to lead by example, and I'm open and honest about saying, well, look, I've taken some time out today because I needed to. Well,
you're delivering that as well, because I think the word sort of, and I think you're a very authentic person. That word's used bound around a lot, but I think authenticity shows that from the actions you're doing them yourself. So what you're saying to your team, you're actually doing, and you're advocating it. So the fact you're saying to the team, go and take some time off, you're also doing it as well. So I think you are leading by example with that, which I think is really important. And it's good for any of our listeners kind of knowing when they are in those moments of pressure and stress. And it's good that you've got coping mechanisms in yourself. When to go out and take that time off and time out moment, right? And go and do something else and reset and hopefully be more productive again with your time.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's leading by example and also encouraging other people to do it.
Yeah.
On one hand, you kind of go, oh, isn't that compassionate? But then also, philosophically, I kind of go, well, if you're in one of those moments, you're not as productive as you're used to being, or you can be, and so. Actually, the kind of taking that sort of half a day out to go for a hike or whatever the equivalent of that is for you, actually pays back to the
it
effort,
does.
pays back to the business, because you're, as long as you've worked out what that right reset is for you, you then come back productive, and that's what we all need.
Totally agree. I mean, just picking up your point around procurement being almost feeling like a job that you can never complete, in terms of the day job. Do you think there's, if we look at procurement the last few years, there's an increasing pressure. I think, from someone that recruits in it and looks inward at you guys daily, there feels to me as an increasing pressure on procurement as a profession. The responsibility you have now, back in the day when you started, and let's look back at previous, Vitality and LV days, and back when you were sort of a sourcing manager, and you were, of course, you're doing the contract negotiations, working with the suppliers, doing the sourcing, etc. negotiations. But think about where procurement is now. You've got so much more focus on AI, on supplier risk management, on ESG, on that wider supply chain piece, the revenue sort of angle on it as well. Do you think procurement's become an impossible job now for people to almost get it complete and get it nailed?
No.
No?
No, I don't know. I think what you're describing is the wonderful evolution. of our profession. And the being an excellent procurement practitioner is now just a prerequisite. That's what you must be. Being absolutely excellent at everything within the procurement life cycle that's like your baseline. And so where we've evolved, and I think it's amazing, right? And we should celebrate it. And I think we do. Those are all the extra things. Like we talk, don't we, about how we've, and I've certainly seen it, how we've kind of gained momentum as a profession. And I think we've done it by making that jump, making that evolution of we're not just there to do the basics. We get involved in all these other things. And whether it's, to your point, whether it's regulation changes, whether it's other external factors, like we've obviously gone through the big inflationary pressures recently. We've obviously had COVID, there's all of these external things that, we're in a position now where when these perils kind of, all these headwinds are something that our business is facing into, procurement are there helping navigate it. And I think, that's something that should be celebrated. So I don't think it's impossible. I think we should celebrate the evolution of who we are and what we do.
So if we look at the modern day procurement professional, where do you see the most important skills lying when you're looking at people for your own team and you're looking at that talent? You talk about that sort of procurement practitioner and that real suite of skills they have, but where are the priorities when you're looking for talent and working with people?
For us, I guess, for me, in the type of procurement we're trying to practice, it's absolutely the prerequisite. You should just be really good at procurement. That's the prerequisite. But then I guess what we look for, or what I've looked for in my team, is having the ability to sort of, I'd sort of summarize it by saying having the ability to build and maintain relationships. Because I think that's the answer to a lot of unlocking that evolution of things that we just spoke about. And so being able to be seen as an intellectual peer to a director of the business, or someone leading a section, because that's what you must do to be able to deliver on all those things that we've just discussed. That's what you need to be able to do to deliver more than just the basics. And so that ability to talk well, that ability to build relationships, that ability to be able to contribute intellectually to what's going on, and then also to be able to deliver on that. Those are, that for me, that's the stuff that we look for. That's the stuff that hopefully we do. I like to think we do. And those are the kind of people that we look for. I certainly have looked for in the people that have joined my team.
No, I agree. And I think it's important to do that. Like you say, build the relationship, build the engagement, say the right things and do the right things. So it's about the delivery side as well. And sometimes we see, generally speaking, in business, not just talk about procurement, there's a lot of good talk. And I get it all loops back, doesn't it? Because I guess that goes back to like the impossible.
And you have to be sort of precise, and you have to make sure that you're prioritizing things that are going to help the business the most. And you can go you can rock up to any meeting or to any situation, and you've got to work out, I guess, is how much impact, influence should I have and can I have over this project, this situation.
Yeah, no, agreed. Quick break from the episode. Hope you're enjoying today's show. To keep up to date with our Talent Talks podcast episodes, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. This will help build our audience and our mission to raise the profile of procurement. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. So, for you, you're still a relatively young age and a young part of your career in the wider scheme of procurement.
Yeah.
You're now heading up a procurement team in an incredible business. Your success has been quite quick in the trajectory of a professional, a business professional's career. What advice would you give to anyone aspiring to be going into procurement leadership to help accelerate their career? What advice would you give?
Just get into it. Just enjoy it. You might as well enjoy it, right? Because there's so much to be curious about. There's so much about our profession to be curious about and enjoy. Every business I've worked in, it's been fascinating what they do. They've all done completely different things, but kind of get into what that business does and understand it. And so I think certainly that, get into it, enjoy it, be curious. And I think it's interesting because I was chatting to someone else this week actually about I don't know if it feels fast or I think I've just been consistent and I've just worked hard, and I've always done my best, tried my best. I've always tried to be credible. I've always tried to deliver on what I've said, and I think there's a lot in that consistency piece for sure.
Stay consistent, get in. I think that professional. I agree. Look, it's a theme actually in the show when people talk around that professional curiosity. I think that does set you apart. And it feels
it's I guess the reason I'm pausing a bit is it feels I don't feel I still aspiring to do more, right?
Yeah,
in
of
my
course.
career.
Yeah.
And it's sort of on one hand it sort of feels weird. I sort of feel weird to kind of go, well, this is you. I only have a case study of one, right? I only have what I've done. And, that sort of seemed to have worked for me so far, but I kind of want to keep progressing. So it's weird to kind of say, this is what you should do. But I guess I'm just sort of reflecting on what I've done. And I've always enjoyed it. I've always tried my best. And I've always, and even in those moments where it's tough or it's hard or it's, it's grim or you feel uncomfortable, I've just sort of dug in and carried on delivering, I think.
And it sounds like you kind of you take the team on the journey with you. Would that be fair to say? You clearly show compassion in your leadership style. I guess by taking the team on the journey with you, they'll be engaged, they'll trust you, they'll support, and they'll want to be part of the cause, right? And supporting you in that. Is that sort of a fair assumption that I've made there around?
I hope so. I guess you'd have to ask. You'd have to ask
I know some
them,
of your team, right? I know, one of your.
Don't talk to them too often, do you?
No, definitely don't talk to them often. But Julia's been at our events before. She's great, and speaks very highly of you. And I can see that compassion that you have, and that passion you show on your LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's a bit of a minefield in terms of its approach. But I know you're a big advocate of the profession as well, which I think really helps. I think that helps that engagement.
It's an interesting one, LinkedIn, isn't it? I don't know.
Let's talk about LinkedIn then.
Do you want to? I don't know if
because you've had some challenges with LinkedIn. You've had people saying
you've
been trolled. You've had some so and
it's so
I've not had that yet. I mean, I never say I will be. Someone probably listen to this and then decide to troll me.
I'm going to do it after this. Yeah,
but so talk us through.
Well, I don't. Well, it must be a couple of years ago now. I just thought, I'll just start posting stuff, and see. And I think it's part of that. I think we're in quite a privileged time in terms of, it's easier than ever to consume content. It's easier than ever to learn about our profession. Yeah, that content is all out there. Whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's going to conferences, all of that kind of stuff. And it used to be, it's sort of like a stock interview question, isn't it? Like, what do you do to stay up to date in your... And it's like, well, there's so many ways of doing that now. And then also, I think we as procurement people, I feel like we're more of a community than we've ever been. And I don't know whether
Agree.
LinkedIn's enabled that. I don't know whether because we've now got so much more to shout about, like what we were saying earlier, because we're not just, we're doing more now as standard. And maybe it's a combination of all those things. We've got more to shout about of what we've got to do. There seems to be, and also I think going back, a few years, people didn't seem to want to share so much.
That's definitely.
They didn't want to talk. And
Yeah.
I don't think people, like, you go back 10 years, people wouldn't have wanted to do this.
No.
You're like, well, I don't know, should I be saying this sort of thing? Should I be? And so I think we're.
I think it's definitely shifting the dial on that. I would agree. And I think, one of the reasons why I do this podcast and done the podcast, because I always say, I don't think procurement are very good at externally shouting about what they do and all the great things they do. Because
do you think?
We're
getting better though.
Getting better.
I think we're
100% getting better. Like no question. And I think there's some great events. There's some great stuff going on LinkedIn. I agree. There's definitely some really nice. Procurement feels more of a community now. I definitely think that's people are cross collaboration and supporting each other and like shouting about people's, whether it's their jobs in their team or promotions or really good transformation stuff they're doing. But I think I did the podcast to help vocalize that a bit more externally because I see so much good internally. And I speak to people every day, peers of yours, and they go, we're doing this, this, and this. I always say to them, like, shout about it. Put it on your LinkedIn, like, share more. It's definitely better. The dial is changing, but I'm trying to sort of like build my network and connect with people that do roles in procurement because I kind of like trying to train my news feed to kind of come up with stuff because even the laziest way of just scrolling, follow some people, and even the laziest way of just scrolling through that stuff, you're still consuming things. And so I kind of thought, well, is there too much though? Do you think? Because there's that kind of rhetoric in the market that sometimes there's too much information. I mean, I guess there's the
that's
argument.
the world we live in. There's too much of everything, isn't there? But I don't know.
Streamlining it down. So that's a really good bit of advice there. So maybe like pick your people you want to follow and some people you want to engage with. And that'll give you a bit of a streamlined way of getting some information, I guess. Yeah.
And then so I kind of, so then I think I just try to I post irregularly, sort of every fortnight, once, twice a month, something like that.
But that knocked your confidence with the trolling bit. Back to that, you did that.
Yeah.
That and I remember you telling me about it at the time.
For a couple of months,
and it knocked your confidence. So
because you do because I like it's weird. Like I post stuff. And there's probably like a level of insecurity every time you post something because you're like, well, is this interesting? Do people care? And
you've said to me you posted. I hope you don't mind me saying you've posted some things you've told me and you've deleted it.
Yeah,
you did that.
I've done that a few times.
Yeah,
I've done that. A few
I
times.
find myself doing that more. I struggle the more available there's information there's been, the more LinkedIn's become a very prominent tool for all of us in business.
Yeah.
People say to me all the time, "Oh, Martin, I've seen you on LinkedIn. You're all over it," and I always get that. Oh God, does that mean I'm too much in your face? Is there too much of that? And that gets that sort of imposter syndrome, or I don't know. You kind of go, "Oh, retract," and then I retract for a few days. If someone says that to me, I retract.
Yeah.
And then there's certain things that I might not post for a few days. So not to the extreme of yours, but still the same sort of thing. And I posted something a couple of days ago and deleted it immediately.
Did you?
I posted it.
Yeah.
I went to the gym. 20 minutes into my session, I looked. This is how vanity is. I only got like 3 likes. Right. And I was like, oh.
So you pulled it because...
So I pulled it because
it didn't have the engagement.
I was like, well, maybe people aren't interested in that because it's peak times of the day. I think they talk about 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning, roughly speaking. Then there's like a lunch period. And then after 6, there's like a certain period in the day that is meant to be particularly good. Bookends of the day, basically. Yeah. And I posted this, didn't get engagement. And I like withdrew it and deleted the thing. And I don't reckon any of my network would have even noticed until now. But like, because I was like, oh God, that's probably not interesting then. Okay, I'm not going to. And then there's that vanity parade of it. Because I don't post to get likes, but I found myself doing that. And it's like,
I think
it's an interesting one, isn't it? It's social media in general, but yeah.
I think the insecurities I have when I post on there is because I don't really know why I'm doing it.
It's a bit like saying a photo and put it on your Instagram or your Facebook of like your kids or something. And then you're like, well, why am I doing that? Because I'll send it to my in-laws or I don't know, a friend.
I don't know, like why. So I've got a profile on LinkedIn. I post fairly regularly. I like to think the content I'm posting is like a bit about life in procurement at Specsavers because I love it and it's a brilliant place to work, and it's a brilliant place to do procurement. And so I think I'm posting a bit about that, and then I think I'm also posting just generally stuff about procurement and our what we do, and I think that's why I'm doing it. But if I'm honest, I'm not really sure why I'm posting on there and why I'm doing it. And so I think that's probably and there's probably some insecurity around each post, but then it is. I do like the when you get the engagement, it does feel. I guess I feel like I'm contributing a bit to when we were talking earlier about do we celebrate what procurement do enough? Like I feel like I'm contributing a little bit towards that. And if I enjoy consuming all of this, if I enjoy consuming seeing other people celebrate what procurement do, then I kind of feel like
you can contribute.
I should contribute myself.
Yeah, agreed. And I think. I think procurement, as I said, are getting better at that. And I think there is more contribution. It creates debate and stuff. But I guess to your earlier point, when you were saying around what's made you successful in your career and got to where you are, you're like, just go and do it. Go and do stuff. Go and be professionally curious. I would say the same about LinkedIn. I shouldn't be deleting posts that I do. Who gives a crap if I've got 3 likes or 300 likes? I should just post what I think is genuine for me, because you go into that trap of clickbaity. I never want to be that person where it's like you're clickbait, or you're sending like what you had for breakfast or like, woe is me about X. I never want that. And I think personally that can be a bit toxic to LinkedIn and other platforms. But I think if it's something you see that's out there, you think that's cool, or one of my team's just done something really interesting, or I've done something really interesting, like, shout about it. Yeah. Because again, to your earlier point, you're saying, I just go and do it, go crack on, go be professionally curious.
And it was, I sort of work on part of this, sort of like an internal talent development scheme, and I've been helping on that in terms of, because I've had the internal promotion, I've gone through some of the bandings. I'm sort of mentor and contributing to that course, and I was chatting to some of the people on that course last week, I think, and one of them was just asking me a load of questions about what I'd done, how I'd got there, and all that kind of stuff. And his response was like, "It just sounds like you used to say yes to everything." and like, but I think why not? These opportunities come up. Like, you asked me to do this, I just said yes. I was saying before this, I was like, before you turn the microphones on and cameras, I'm just really nervous. But it's like, well, I might as well do it, and like, what harm can come from? Well, hopefully none. Like, what harm can come from doing something like this? What harm can come from saying yes and giving things a go?
You learn, don't you? You learn from that. You learn from doing things, saying yes.
Yeah.
Finally, we've got something a little bit different to finish the show,
right?
Which we've just started trialing, which is around your a few quickfire questions, if I may, Carl. So I'm gonna finish off with those.
So what do you want? Like a one-word answer?
I want a quick. Don't even like think about it. I just want you to do the first thing that comes in your mind when I say this.
All right.
Okay. Question number 1.
All right.
Who is your biggest inspiration?
There was a lady called Sue who was the head of indirect procurement on my grad scheme.
Perfect. What gets you up each morning?
my 3-year-old daughter asking for breakfast.
Okay. So they've gone with the literal answer. I like it. Good. One word to describe the future of procurement.
Exciting.
What's the best career advice you've ever received?
Be consistent.
Yeah. Which is what we talked about. Yeah. Perfect. And finally, I'm intrigued with this answer.
Yeah.
If you weren't in procurement,
what
would you be doing?
You want to come up with like a Peter Crouch question, don't you? If you weren't a footballer, what would you be?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I won't answer what you said on it.
I don't know. I think I'd probably like to give sales a go. I think that would be quite interesting.
Come in recruitment.
But
or just
no, I quite like procurement. I don't want to leave procurement. I don't know. Yeah.
You go in sales.
Yeah, but if you asked me what did I want to be when I was a kid, I wanted to either be like a yachtsmaster, I wanted to be a captain of a ship, or I wanted to be a rally driver. Those were the 2 things I wanted to be. Okay. And actually, I did my work experience as a sailing instructor, and it was interesting actually. I remember doing that. Kind of reaffirmed to me, I think, that I wanted to have. I wanted to keep sailing as fun and leisure and pleasure, and actually I wanted to pursue a career in the business world.
Not too stressful, yeah. Love it. Carl, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great to have you on the show. I really appreciate your honesty and your openness, Good luck with everything the rest of the year, Specsavers and outside of work. Good luck with the hockey. Hope you get the injury sorted soon. You can get back on the field and good to have you.
Thank you, Martin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and we'll be back soon with more Talent Talks podcasts. In the meantime, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite platform. See you soon. Take care.